Well, it's official. The Celtics are undefeated in the Derrick White, Daniel Tice 2.0 era, even though Tice didn't play tonight. But they have not lost the game when Derrick White takes the court for them. That is a statistical fact. They are officially 1-0 as the Celtics get their seventh win in a row, beating the Denver Nuggets 108 to 102. It was a really fun, competitive basketball game virtually the whole way. It was close. The Celtics looked a little bit off in the first half, especially their defense, which has been their calling card the past month or so, month and a half. And it looked a little shaky, but then they really battened down the hatches, came out with some great halftime adjustments and more energy, and played a really terrific second half of basketball. Played well in the clutch, and it looks like a completely different Celtics team than what we saw for most of the year prior to January. So basically all of 2021. It just heads and tails different that this team is doing all the things right now that they weren't doing. They're playing much more consistent on both sides of the ball. They're more willing passers. They're turning the ball over far less. Uh, they are. They seem like they're playing with a lot more confidence. They're not melting down in the end of fourth quarters. They're getting to the line more. I mean, basically everything that you were hoping to see and you didn't see out of them for the most part of the season, they're suddenly doing now. And a lot of that had to do with this win streak is obviously giving them confidence. But up until tonight against Denver, they really hadn't beaten an impressive opponent in that win streak, other than I'd say Charlotte. That was a pretty impressive victory. But to me, this game tonight was their most important win of the season. And I mean that what I mean by that is basically this. They want to the players obviously want to believe that they turned a corner. Fans want to believe that they've turned a corner. And you still have heard the talks about, okay, well, they beat up on the Kings, they beat up on the Nets without Kyrie, Harden, or Durant. Who else, who do they really play? Are they actually doing things the right way now, or is it just a product of their schedule? And then they have a couple days off. They have the trade deadline where a lot of pieces go out and you get new pieces. And so easy to think that they could have just reverted back to some of their bad habits and dropped this game tonight. But they showed a lot of resilience in continuing the win streak. And I think they proved to themselves that it's not just wasn't just a product of their schedule, that we can go out there and compete and do the right things and have good habits against quality teams. And I'm not saying the Nuggets are championship contenders, and this isn't even what the best version of this Nuggets team looks like. They're still missing two of their best players. They're missing Jamal Murray and missing Michael Porter Jr. I don't even know if either of them are going to come back this year. Unlikely. Uh, that being said, they still have the reigning MVP in Nikola Jokic. The Celtics did a good job on him tonight in terms of forcing him to turn the ball over. I mean, he always is going to have a solid statistical performance, and he had a triple double tonight, but he also had 9 turnovers. And so that's credit to the Celtics defense for that. So this is a quality Nuggets team coming into the game. They were 30-24, 500 on the road. So it's not obviously not a world beater, but a good, solid basketball team, far better than what the Celtics have faced recently. And the Celtics showed that they can play up to and beyond the level of a quality basketball opponent. And while it doesn't seem like much to be celebrated, it is a dramatic change from what it was just a month or month and a half ago, when on any given night the Celtics could lose to any iteration of any team. Um, so it. I think tonight was a really important for the team's confidence and for fans' confidence in the team. Now, I know if you've been listening to me all year long, you've heard me say this team needs to blow it up. This team isn't going anywhere, and I stand by that. I just because they're playing better now and playing closer to what they should be doesn't mean that I suddenly think that I'm going to reverse course and that they're a championship contender. They're a long way from being a championship contender. The East is really tight right now in terms of the standings. It's very bunched up, but I see the Celtics as a clear cut rung below the top teams in the East. I see them clearly behind Milwaukee, if healthy, when healthy, clearly below Brooklyn, clearly below Philadelphia, um, and clearly below Miami. Did I say Miami? Philadelphia, Brooklyn, Miami, Milwaukee. Okay, I'm not crazy. Yeah, I didn't say Miami. And then you can sort of have your debates on, are they around the same as the Bulls? Are the Bulls a little bit better? I would say yes, but the Celtics have more postseason experience. So in a series that I think that would be competitive, the Cavs are playing really well. Are the Celtics better than the Cavs? Again, more postseason experience, but the Cavs maybe a little bit deeper. We've seen the Celtics struggle against the Hawks this year. The Hawks are below the Celtics in the standing. So just because they're playing well right now and they're playing their best basketball season, which undoubtedly they are, doesn't mean that I think that their fortunes are suddenly completely different. I think that they'd have to get the perfect opponent in the first round to get out of it. I really do still believe that. And they still have time to change my mind. There's plenty of basketball left to be played before the postseason, and we'll see what this new team looks like with the acquisitions that they had in the trade deadline. Adding Daniel Tice back, Derrick White certainly, and we'll talk about him a little bit more in a second. Looked really good in his debut, and they obviously need to sign some guys, buyout candidates. So it's still a work in progress. We don't know what this roster is going to look like in a couple of weeks. Um, it remains to be seen who's bought out, what the team looks like, how they gel. Uh, but for the past month and a half, they're playing so much better and they're playing basketball that you can actually get behind and say, all right, this team's putting in an effort. They're doing things the right way. I like what I see here on the court. And tonight was just the latest example of that. And it was a game that they easily could have lost and packed it in. And especially after the first half where they looked not fully disinterested, but they looked a little bit out of it. And they really rallied in the second half and played a really, really solid, strong game of basketball. Played much better on the defensive end in the second half, and made better decisions with the ball offensively. So really, really quality, important win for the Celtics tonight. I can't say enough about uh, how strong of a win I think this is, regardless of the fact that Denver doesn't have the two of their three best players. They're still a good team even without those guys, and the Celtics need to prove that they can hang with a good team and beat them. And they did that tonight. So let's get into the box score. Starters tonight, even though the Celtics didn't have many active players, still have the usual starters: Tatum, Horford, Rob Williams, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown. Tatum played 37 minutes. 8 of 19 from the floor. Did not shoot the ball well from three, though. Just 1 of 8. He did get to the free throw line 8 times, though, hitting 7 of them. 6 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals, and two turnovers, 24 points. Very, very solid. Good game from Tatum, especially getting the free throw line that much. And the defensive effort with the 3 steals, 5 assists, to 2 turnovers. You take that all day. Good job by Tatum there. I thought the ball movement tonight, especially in the second half, was also excellent from the Celtics. Maybe that's by virtue of the fact that they played a lot of 2 point guard lineups with Smart and White in there at the same time. And so the ball moves a little better. You have 2 natural ball handlers in there. That's something I think you're going to see more of going forward. Horford, very solid game tonight. 30 minutes, 3 of 8 from the floor, 1 of 4 from 3. Hit both of his free throws. He had 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks, and 9 points. Was tasked a lot with covering Jokic. He did a very solid job there. Well, Rob Williams was tremendous tonight. He was my top choice for the Celtics' best player on the court tonight. 37 minutes, 7 of 12 from the floor, 1 of 2 from the free throw line, 16 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, and 15 points. Just a great overall effort for Rob Williams. And while he didn't guard Jokic much, he did make his presence known. He was terrific around the rim. Not just the 3 blocks, he altered a lot of shots, made a lot of key defensive plays. He just continues to improve almost by a game basis. Become such an important key player for this team. And their success in winning these 7 games in a row does not happen without Rob Williams continuing to get better and better and better. I'm so impressed with his game, and if he could just learn to a little bit of a jumper. Suddenly you're talking about a guy who could be making all-star games. But until he does that, he's just going to be a really, really solid, very, very good player. I think he's still got plenty of room to grow. Marcus Smart, 39 minutes, played a really good game for himself. 6 of 16 from the floor, 2 of 6 from 3, 8 of 10 from the free throw line, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, 5 steals, and 5 turnovers, 22 points. really, really good effort from Marcus Smart tonight, who continues to play really well since he's come back from being out of the lineup. He's done a terrific job and really been a calming, steadying presence. His shot selection wasn't great tonight, but it wasn't terrible. And getting to the free throw line 10 times, tremendous. That you love to see that. And obviously, the 7 assists and 5 steals are really, really great numbers for Marcus. Jaylen Brown, not a great game for him tonight. Though he did pass the ball well, which is not his strongest suit. So I'll give him some credit for that. 39 minutes, 4 of 17 from the floor, 0 of 6 from three, 4 of 7 from the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 2 turnovers, and just 12 points for Jaylen Brown. Not his strongest performance, but Celtics, that again shows that this was a really quality win for the Celtics, that they can beat a solid team uh, despite their second best player not necessarily playing a terrific game. And then obviously what people really want to talk about is what happened with the bench tonight, mainly Derrick White, the big acquisition that the Celtics had yesterday at the trade deadline. I talked about this earlier on the Pick and Roll NBA podcast with myself and John Sapichetti. I've talked at length about the Celtics trade. I really like White as a player. I think he's a very good fit on the team in terms of what they want to do. I am not thrilled about what they gave up to get him. Uh, I think he's a better player than Josh Richardson, so it's not so much that they weren't using Romeo Langford, so it's not so much that it's that it was Richardson and Langford and a first round pick and that 2028 pick swap. And I know I sound like the guy yelling at clouds and a crazy person in the street, but I just think it's irresponsible to trade picks that far out when you can't accurately prognosticate what your team's going to look like in was 2028 6 years from now. It's just I think trading assets that far down the road is a really bad approach and a good way to set your team way back. So and I don't see any scenario where this trade doesn't get done if you don't include that pick swap, or at the very least you put, top 10 protection on it. I don't see the Spurs making that a sticking point, especially with the season they're having where they're not going anywhere, saying, "No, we're not going to give up Derek White if you don't, make sure this is an unprotected first round pick swap." I think that's shows Brad Stevens uh, naivete at the job and greenness at it, and it shows the Spurs, even though they're having a couple down years now, they know what they're doing in their front office with Popovich and RC Buford, and I think they really took advantage of Brad Stevens there. But regardless of all that, Derek White did play tonight, and he played very, very well. Made a great first impression to the Celtics fans and to his new teammates. 28 minutes off the bench, including playing in the crunch, and did a really good job in crunch time too. 6 of 12 from the floor, 3 of 7 from three, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and 15 points. Really good defense too, which is sort of his calling card. He's going to be, kind of a similar type player to Marcus Smart, who's going to be a lot of effort. He's uh, he's a really, really good defender. You saw that he's got a high basketball IQ. He had a couple of tip-ins around the basket. He seems to have a nose for the ball. He's going to be able to slash. And tonight he did a good job from three. His 3-point percentage isn't great this year, but tonight knocking down 3 of 7, you take that all day. And I think he's going to be a big part of this team. And I think the lineup you saw at the end of the game, Smart, Brown, Robert Williams, Tatum, and White is your closing roster, or sorry, your closing lineup, because it's your best defensive lineup and it's probably your best offensive lineup too. And Horford, I think by the end of games just gets gassed, and we'll see if Daniel Tice's arrival helps that at all, limiting the minutes for him. But I think that's a strong end of game lineup, and tonight did a good job closing out the Nuggets. So a really, really excellent first game for Derek White. And Celtics have to be happy with what he gave them tonight. He fit in seamlessly. It looked like he'd been playing with these guys forever. Granted, he has played with Tatum, Brown, and Smart before on Team USA. He has been coached by Ime Udoka before. So it's not a shock that he was able to come in and sort of understand what they want to do. But to be traded yesterday, fly in and play today and have such an impactful game, I think that's a really promising sign for what he can bring to the Celtics going forward. Other guys on the bench, only 2 other guys played on the bench. So continuing with a small 8-man rotation for Ime Udoka. Grant Williams played 19 minutes. He had 8 points. solid game from him. Peyton Pritchard, not so great. 11 minutes, 1 of 6 from the floor, 1 of 3 from three for 3 points, as he's continues to struggle in his sophomore campaign. And we will see what happens once the buyout market hits for what the rest of the roster looks like. A little disappointed to not see any Aaron Nesmith tonight. It doesn't look like he's in the Celtics' future plans at all. It doesn't look like Coach Udoka trusts him to be part of this team or rotation. So we'll see what the future holds for Mr. Nesmith. But all in all, yeah, Celtics win 108, 102, 7 in a row. Really, really big win for the C's as the schedule picks up significantly. Basically, for the rest of the season. If you're watching the Celtics broadcast, Brian Scalabrine was saying it. It's kind of a sprint now to the finish because the East is so close. There's very little margin for error, and so it's gonna be every game is gonna be worth watching. And the Celtics have Atlanta on Sunday at 2. Don't worry, it doesn't impede on your Super Bowl watching. Then on Tuesday, it's at Philadelphia. Um, it probably will be James Harden's second game, I think, with the Sixers. Then you play next week the Pistons, which that's a gimme. At Brooklyn next Thursday, or no, sorry, after the All Star break. 'Cause the All Star break happens after the Pistons game, so we'll revisit the schedule after the All Star break. How about that? I don't need to read the whole damn thing to you. But yeah, Atlanta and Philadelphia. Um, Very, very interesting games for the Celtics. You want to see how they match up against Atlanta now with Derrick White in the mix to slow down Trae Young a little bit. They've struggled with Atlanta this year, and then Philadelphia is one of the championship favorites now, so they're a good measuring stick to see where you're at. Um, so yeah, it's exciting to watch Celtics basketball now for the first time all season long. And I think that's terrific. I'm really happy to not be miserable every night. How about that? Let's go to the chat where I see a lot of action here, mostly from my friend Leonard Kim. See Glenn Caesar in there too. Appreciate you guys. Leonard says, impressive win. I know it's a trap, but I'm starting to feel optimistic about the team. Maybe we can push them from a first round exit to a second round exit. They're trending that way, Leonard. I'm not ready to make that decree yet, but they're certainly trending in a much more positive direction than they ever have been over the course of this season. Without a doubt. Appreciate you, Glenn, watching this live. Thank you for the congratulations. The Celtics win tonight. Leonard, what else you got to say, my friend? I love Horford and always have a place in my heart, but I don't love him getting a ton of minutes. Yeah, I think we've talked about this before, right? Too many minutes to start the season. He's still playing too many minutes. He's going to be worth nothing in the playoffs if they continue at this rate. That's why Tice is going to be important in terms of hopefully he can play at the level he was playing at when he was with the Celtics, as opposed to once they traded him and what he's done so far in Houston, which is nothing positive really. And spell Horford. And also, I'm hoping they get a quality big in the buyout market. They really could use that depth at the center position. And they also need to try to find some shooting. That was their biggest need at the trade deadline. They didn't address it. They added more of kind of what they had, more defense in White, and that's fine, other than the compensation. But they still need shooting, and hopefully a shooter is available in the buyout market. I think you agree with me here, Leonard, saying Steven showed his inexperience, but I still say he's a decent trade deadline in his first year as GM. I mean, we'll have to see in 2028 if that's true or not, Leonard. I've set my clock to 2028 to see how the Celtics are and see if I can mock Brad Stevens then for making a dumb trade. Maybe I'll be looking foolish then. It helps that we have one of the easiest remaining schedules. I don't know off the top of my head what the strength of schedule is for the Celtics going forward. Just looking at some of the opponents they play. Like I said, they do play Philadelphia again. They play Brooklyn a couple more times. They play Golden State. They play Dallas. They play Denver again. They play Utah. They play Toronto. They play Miami. They play Chicago. They play Milwaukee. They play Memphis. I don't think it might be the easier strength of schedule amongst other teams in the East, but to me, it doesn't look super easy. But again, we can revisit all that after the All-Star break. Glenn, 6 years, it goes by fast. You and I both know that. 6 years will go by in a drop of a bucket, if that's a saying. But man, almost 20 minutes in, I don't have to talk anymore about this. Celtics, 7 wins in a row, best basketball of the season. Derrick White, big impact in his first game, and the Celtics will look to make it 8 in a row on Super Bowl Sunday, as they face the Atlanta Hawks at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Again, you can watch the Super Bowl and the Celtics. They give you the option to do both of those things. And so that's what I shall be doing. I hope everybody enjoys the Super Bowl. I'll try to squeeze in a post game Celtics for that Hawks game. And I'll talk to you all later. Thank you for watching. See you, everybody.